What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Matt, and in today's video, I'm going to show you guys exactly how, from start to finish, you guys could put yourself together a very profitable flipping strategy for buying and selling NFTs and hopefully making some money in 2022. If you guys are new, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and let's get right into it. So, if you guys don't know, this market has changed an awful lot over the past year, and I think using knowledge and strategies from, say, 2021 really don't apply this year, and it's a shame because I wish we could get consistent and stick with a similar strategy, but I find these are always changing depending on the month. I mean, it really does feel as if NFTs change month by month. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how exactly you could find these new strategies, what these new strategies entail, and overall how you could make more money with NFTs than you have before. So the first thing we have to kind of consider is what exact strategy are we going to deploy. Now, there are a few different things we can do. First off, you guys have to keep in mind that Ethereum, Solana, whatever you're using, Terra Luna, if you're using that, all of these coins are having a wild fluctuation in price right now. Depending on when you're watching this video, it really doesn't matter. These coins are always going to fluctuate in price. So the best thing you can do if you're trying to maximize your profit is to buy more liquid, to actually buy more of these coins when they're cheap, and of course sell them when they are high. Because what I find happens most of the time is with NFTs, once the coin goes up in value, NFTs go down in value. So it doesn't really matter what's going on in the current market conditions, as long as you keep in mind that, hey, I'm going to consistently add to my Ethereum and Solana bags when the prices are down, and I will consistently liquidate some NFTs I'm not interested in keeping when prices are going up. That is probably the best strategy, because ideally, if you spend 2 Solana on something and sell it for 4, but the price of Solana doubles, you didn't make a 2x, you made a 4x. So that's definitely a start. The other thing I wanted to get into before actually covering these strategies is removing emotionalism. Guys, whether or not you like an NFT ultimately is irrelevant. Whether or not you like the art or the design, it doesn't really matter all that much. If you're looking to flip, you have to detach yourself from the emotional aspect of it, because it doesn't matter if you like the art. It matters if other people like the art. And that's the number one thing I think people make in terms of a mistake with NFTs, is getting a little too personally attached to them. And honestly, guys, it is very easy to buy an NFT you have mixed feelings on, sell it for a profit, and move on with your life. Very easy to do that. I've done it before, and I have no remorse about doing that. Don't feel obligated to hold on to an NFT for life, because ultimately that's how the majority of bag holders are created. So that being said, let's get into the 3 strategies in this video. But before I do, make sure to check out my Patreon, guys, down below in the description. If you guys would like to know every single NFT I am ever buying and selling, make sure to check it out, of course, for my private Discord community access as well. Tons of awesome stuff going on over there. Matt's NFT Dojo, full access, monthly calls, awesome stuff on the Patreon. And to be honest with you guys, I think it's a steal for only $10 a month. First strategy we're going to use here is flipping off of mint. Now, this is probably the easiest strategy out of all of them, and I think it's probably the safest. So here's one very simple example. This is called Bobos of War here on Magic Eden. This is also listed on SOLANA and the other major exchanges. Now, they minted for a price of 2, quickly surged to a floor price of around 3 or 3.5, and now they're sitting around 2 again. So when you saw something like this, it was very, very hyped up. It was extremely popular. It sold out pretty quickly, and with Solana, of course, fluctuating in terms of price and all that, I think a very simple little flip like this would have been probably the correct answer if you were looking to just take a safe route and grow the Solana in your wallet. Now, minting at a price of 2 is fine. That's not particularly high these days, but not particularly cheap either. I notice a lot of projects are minting for less than that, but what makes Bobos of War here so important is that, again, this was an example of something that had a ton of hype on Twitter, was the only major Solana mint for the day, and was able to persist even through Solana network congestion. So an example of this, definitely when I first saw this, I could have easily told you that this would have probably appreciated within the first at least few hours. After a while, people get fatigued, people realize the floor isn't moving all that much, and then they sell off and they get rid of it, and then they are bored. But something like Bobos of War is very, very common, and it has happened before. Another example of this that is very, very popular and a very common example is Alpha Gorillas. These guys are going right now a floor 4 of around 1.56, but they minted for 1, and for a while we're going for a floor of around 2.5. So once again, this would have been a very easy 2 or 2.5x if you wanted to, because they've had a lot of hype on Twitter. They had a ton of community engagement, and overall, a project like this definitely, if you would have asked me beforehand, I would have guessed would have seen an appreciation in floor price. Now, the only problem with doing this strategy is, yes, while it's safe, you also might kick yourself on potentially missing out on some good long holds. So if there's a mint that's really desirable that you feel lucky to have gotten, sometimes it's worth taking that extra step and using your intuition and perhaps holding on to some things, because even though you might make a flip for 1 Solana or 1 Ethereum, whatever that is, even if you might make a good flip, you could perhaps make a better move just by holding it. Now, building off that mint idea, when we talk about getting on some whitelists, guys, this is probably the only guaranteed way to make money in the NFT world, at least sort of guaranteed. Now, there's no waking up tomorrow going, okay, the price is going to be exactly this. That's never going to happen. But when you look at a project like Hate Beast, I mean, this is ridiculous, folks. They minted for 0.2 Ethereum, which is at any given day roughly between $400 and $600. And having minted for that, when you take a look at their Twitter, I mean, tell me this is not a steal. I mean, look at this, 277,000 followers on their Twitter, just an astronomical, inhuman level of hype around this project. I mean, this was virtually guaranteed money, and everybody who was on the whitelist for this project knew that. Now, another example is something like Squiggles, which has 120,000, and again, Twitter absolutely exploding, performing extremely well. You go to Doodles, anybody who probably got on the Doodles whitelist was probably doing very, very well, because right now they have a floor here on OpenSea of 9.5. So any project that has an astronomical level of support on social media is going to be very hard to get on the whitelist of. But if you can do it, it is virtually guaranteed money, and that is why it's precisely so difficult. People know that getting on whitelists for projects like this is basically a win-win. Now, not every whitelist. Some whitelists are better than others, but whitelist for something of this scale is basically free access to something that you'll spend a few $100 on and perhaps make a few thousand in the first day. Now, when you look at something like this, maybe it is the good idea to flip it right away. Hate Beast, I'm sure when you first minted this for 0.2 and saw the floor at 6 Ethereum, you were probably like, oh my God, let me sell it. It's gone up a little bit since. That's fine. I don't think most people are shedding a lot of tears about that if they sold it at 6 or 7. So ultimately, when you see a project like this, if you get on the whitelist, get it, flip it, when it comes out, and that's probably when it's going to have the most amount of hype. All right, so the second strategy I wanted to show you guys is flipping off of news. So this isn't based off of a mint. This could be a project that has already minted, but sometimes if you are able to follow the news correctly, you might do very, very well. So here's an example, Ultron Apes here on Magic Eden. This is a project that so many people were talking about. It was like a rug pull by the initial developers, which was awful, and people were upset about this, and the floor was down to, like 1 Solana a piece. And then people said, wait a minute. What if we bring this back? What if we decide to reverse rug the developers who rugged this in the first place? So there was an entire initiative on Twitter to reverse rug this. I got tweeted at by a ton of people. In Discords, there were a lot of Solana whales who were in the server for Ultron Apes, people with Thugbirds, Solana Monkey Business, all the large projects in their profile pics. So I saw this and I said, man, this news has to work. This has to do something to impact this price long term, and it has. So I spent 1.5. I caught it a little late. I would have liked to have bought it, 0.5, but bought it for 1.5 Solana, and right now the floor is around 4, and yesterday the floor is around 5, so I could have sold for 5 if I wanted to yesterday. So when you look at something like this, again, same thing, folks, very, very easy to pick up if you are able to follow the news cycles correctly. Now, news does not always equate to a rise in floor price. There are a lot of times in which a project will have good news about it, but not directly rise in floor price, and that's fine. fine. There's really not much you can do about that, but definitely try to learn how to read news in the NFT scene. Again, this can happen. You can make money by doing this. It literally takes making a Twitter account, making some friends, talking to some people, following people like me on Twitter. You could do that, and overall, you will probably get a very wide base of knowledge about current NFT projects, about what the whales in the NFT industry, whether it be Ethereum or Solana, are talking about. And I think that is probably one of the best things you could do. Another example here is Bored Ape Solana Club. I was looking at these at around 2 Sol, and I said, man, I wonder if these guys could do something. And then they started blowing up on Twitter. Everybody's buying them up, tweeting about it. And I said, my goodness, I got to ape in. I got to. And sure enough, right now the floor is at over 6. So I've made it very easy 2x on this from when I initially bought this. But also the floor the other day was around 17. So if I wanted to sell, I could have sold for 17 and made a very easy, 6x on this project. So again, I'm holding this long term. I believe this will do something long term. But again, if you want to make these quick flips, they can very easily be done just by following the news cycle. All right, now the last strategy here is going to be the most difficult one, yet I still think you can develop this sense over time and perhaps make a lot of money with it. So the strategy I wanted to include for the ending of this video is flipping off of intuition and conviction, because to be honest with you, it's such a powerful force that a lot of people don't need to research news, don't need to chase mints. They just have the intuition to know when to buy and when to sell. Now, how do you develop that, and what are some examples of that being done? Well, here is my thought process. So one example of a project that I bought just on intuition and happened to do well with was the Sand Vegas Casino Club. So I bought this for 0.29. It currently has a floor of 0.58, and definitely a very easy 2x on my investment. Now, I bought this just a couple of days ago, so how did I know this would double? Well, I didn't, but I believed in it. And the reason why I believed in it is because this particular project buys land in the Sandbox, which is one of the biggest metaverse projects out there now. And I just knew in my heart of hearts that the Sandbox, the Decentraland, this whole metaverse thing is certainly not over. In fact, it really hasn't begun. So I knew in my heart of hearts that this would eventually make some pretty large moves. I didn't know when. Now, it looks as if a lot of other people are starting to share that sentiment as well, because the floor price again has risen. It looks as if they are making some decent plays over on their Twitter, in terms of buying land. Look what they have here, 3x3s on the Sandbox, which is always very, very cool. So if you believe in the Sandbox, you probably had a reason to believe in the Vegas Casino Club. But that is really where conviction and intuition comes in. I have conviction that crypto will continuously go up over the next 5 years. Even if there are some bullish and some bear runs, in 5 years from now, I am mortally convinced that cryptocurrency will be worth more than it is today. So knowing that, it allows me to make investments like this a little bit easier and a little bit less weighing on my conscience. I also know that, of course, the metaverse is not going to be just dumped overnight. You have Facebook that wants to get in on Instagram, all these big companies, Adidas, Nike, they all want to get on this, and I don't think it's just going to evaporate overnight. So I am looking for this strategy to make more of a long-term play, but very easily could have made a short-term flip. Again, if I wanted to, I could sell it right now for double what I paid, but I'm going to choose not to. I'm going to choose to hold on to this. But, when I think about a long-term vision and a long-term intuition, I just have intuition that the metaverse will continue to grow, and that is why finding a project that is doing good things in the metaverse is a pretty good option. Now, this isn't me saying, oh my goodness, you have to go buy a metaverse NFT right now. No, there's a ton of different options you could do out there. If you believe in liquidity pools or DeFi, or believe in the idea of staking your NFTs, there are tons of different NFTs out there that have created their own token, have some form of staking, some level of passive income for their holders. Something like that is also very easy to get into, and ultimately, if you believe in whatever staking protocol they have available, you will probably make the right choice. I trust you. Another example here is the Sweets. This is an example where I just saw their Twitter, I had an intuition, I said, God, these guys are going to explode. And sure enough, they did sell out in seconds. Believe me, I was there trying to get them on Mint, and I could not. They sold out before I was able to do that. But take a look at this. I looked at the footage that they have provided. I said, man, this looks beautiful. This looks like one of the nicest metaverse NFTs out there right now. Why not try to get in on this? And sure enough, when it launches, here you can see the floor is around 13. So if you would have minted this for 1 Solana, you would have made a 13x on it or something. And if I think the mint might have been 2 actually, so you would have made a clean 7x on this. Definitely a very easy flip for those that would have wanted to. And the floor was actually a little bit higher when it first came out. It was like 16 or something like that. So for those that would have wanted to, this would have been a super easy flip to do. And again, just by looking at a project like this, I had the intuition that this would perform well, just because I noticed that they are doing this metaverse thing better than a lot of other projects out there. Then same thing, take a look here, Meta Village. I look at something like this, I go, man, the Twitter here is huge. There are a lot of big factors at play here. Why not mint this? So I will definitely be looking for Meta Village whenever this does release. I don't know when that will be, but I definitely will be looking at this because I have conviction it'll perform well. And this could go on and on. The Thugbirds people have had conviction that the Thugbirds will perform well, and that is how they brought Thugbirds from a floor of, I think, 8 to a floor of like 100 in like a couple of months. Now they've had a bit of a pullback since then, but overall, the reason why people were able to bring Thugbirds to where they are is because they had conviction. And a little bonus strategy, I find being a meaningful community member in certain already established projects can actually be a good option. So if you find a project, let's say you're just browsing Magic Eden, there are tons of projects on here that are garbage. I mean, just garbage. There's a lot. I mean, there's some decent things on this page, but a lot of this stuff is also absolute crap. Now, how can you look through this and determine what might be a good flip in the future? Well, it's pretty hard to say, but if there's something that has a very small supply of, say, 100 or 200, and you believe that that supply can potentially impact you in the future, and you could potentially make some kind of move in their social media growth, in their marketing, that might be a good thing to look into. So, for example, let's look at this 69 supply here, 333. Any of these projects, I have no idea if this project here is good. No idea. I have no idea if this project here is good. But in theory, if you wanted to, they are going for so cheap right now, you could literally hop in their Discord, make a few good moves, talk to some people, and you could take any of these projects, and if you were a meaningful member of the community, you could make a flip. You could grow it and help the project develop. You could buy 5 of these if you wanted to, and help the community grow, and try to, at some point in the future, sell them and make your initial investment back. There are tons of these on Magic Eden. Again, a lot of them are not going to be all that great. I do find this to be a little bit harder to do on OpenSea for Ethereum, simply because the gas fees make stuff like this a little bit harder. But I do find on Solana, it is very easy just to browse any project like this on the home screen, and you could literally make a very good deal of money if you are able to grow their social media into the proper way in which you think their social media should be ran. You could, buy 5 of these if you want, sell one, make all your money back, and then let the rest ride. So something like that, again, is kind of just a bonus strategy I wanted to include. Can be done. It's not the easiest direct short-term flip, but you definitely can do it and make some money. So that being said, guys, I hope you all have enjoyed. If you guys did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I truly do appreciate it. Check out the Patreon down below in the description. My name is Matt. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.